Salve, Bob Stewart, and welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. That's Chad Hyams here, and as I mentioned, Bob Stewart over there. Bob, how are you doing today?
It's very formal. I'm pretty sure salve is a very formal hello in Italian. Is that right?
It is a very formal. It's Latin,
Oh,
and it's the formal way. Ciao would be hello on the everyday as we go in Italian. Yet salve is the formal greeting of the business hello.
awesome.
I'm running out of languages, Bob Stewart. I'm not sure where to go next. We're getting into trouble because once I pick like the whole continent of South America, they're all Spanish, and then I pick. Yeah, I'm running out of languages that I can actually say the words.
I want to hear you do some languages where it's like a clicking sound with your tongue.
Right. I will find one of those drum sounds or something for you. Bob, what's going on in your neck of the woods?
Just living the dream, Chad. Living the dream.
Whose dream? My question when people tell me to live in the dream is, whose dream are you actually living? Is it yours, Bob Stewart?
I'm living my 7-year-old son's dream.
Yes, who can dribble behind his back better than you, I see.
His world revolves around him, and I'm just thankful to be a satellite in it.
Well, let's hope this work all pays off and you have your retirement plan in place when your 7-year-old goes pro.
It's funny because in many ways, David Nurse, one of our guests here, has given me, I think originally, my kid told me I want to make the NBA. I'd be like, good luck. That's not happening. And all along the way, we need to have an exit plan and a backup strategy, right? But, talking to David and kind of hearing about his journey, right? And he was a kid probably just like my son, right? He wants to be in the NBA. He's from Iowa. He spends his whole life dedicated to basketball. And when he realizes that dream of the NBA is out of reach, right? It's not going to happen for him. It wasn't like all that passion he put into his basketball was for waste, right? He's an NBA shooting coach, right? And he works with a bunch of guys in the NBA now because he put all that work and effort into something he was passionate about. And because the ultimate thing that he was after didn't happen, he didn't let that passion die, right? So
Bob, we've had some guests over the years. We've had our Blue Angels. We've had Navy SEALs. And they talk about the percentage that they know, right? How small the percentage is of people who ever become a Blue Angel pilot or who ever become a Navy SEAL, or there's the stat out there about what the percentage is of people who become like an NFL quarterback. Do you know, and have you looked at and actually authentically talked with your son about, look, there is a 1 in 147,000 chance of this actually happening. Let's work for it, yet understand it's you might never hit the growth spurt that dad had. You might end up mom's height, and that's going to, of course, change things for you.
Yeah, we've definitely talked to him. I mean, he knows how many kids from his age group make it to play high school basketball. He knows how many high school basketball players make. We've definitely gone through those numbers. I want him to be really honest about what it takes. The flip side of that, and look, a lot of people would be like, "You're crazy, insane. Make your kid believe he's got a chance." And maybe this is a fault in my parenting with my son, but I saw a kid that looked just like me, right, make it to the NBA. And I started watching him when he was in 5th grade. And so I watched him all the way through high school and was really close to him as a child when he was a 5th and a 6th and a 7th grader. So I have a pretty good idea of what it takes. And it's a lot, but, you're going to put the work in. No matter what you're going to get in life, Chad, it's going to be a function of putting the work in. And, life's hard. It can be hard doing the work to get results you love, or you can do no work and then get shitty results, and you'll have a hard life that way too, right? So I don't know.
Absolutely.
I just want to I want my boys to leave our house with the idea that they can work hard for things and they can make those things happen when they do it.
Okay. And of course, what's the old quote, right? Aim for the moon, because even if you miss, you land amongst the stars.
Yeah, even if you miss,
he might not make the NBA, but maybe he's a shooting coach, right? Or maybe he becomes one of the top analysts on TNT or something like that at one point. Folks, authenticity is a key in there. That's why we're asking Bob if he's being authentic with his kid about it, because Bob, we're going to talk about leading from a place of authenticity today. Okay. Because we understand, folks, that you don't want to squash your kids' dreams, yet you need to be real with them. You don't want to squash your employees' dreams. There's that person who shows up who says, Bob, I'm going to be the number one salesperson in the world and sell 10 million widgets, right? You don't want to squash their dreams and say, hey, we want to be authentic with them, though. We also want people, and it's one of the things we talk about our partner, Ben, often, right? For people who know him, people who don't know him, you probably feel like you do. That's a guy who leads from authenticity, right? When something is wrong, he lets you know. When he's having a challenge, he lets you know. And we're going to talk today about the 8 ways to lead from a place of authenticity.
I love that. I love that.
And what we're going to do, Bob, we're not just going to give them the ways. We did a little research on this one. We're going to actually share some of the reasoning behind, of course, what makes that reason important. And we've even brought some data, folks. So there's actually proof that can back Bob and I up as we take you through this list today. So, Bob, I've sent the list over to you. I know you did a little research on some of them. I know number 1 was one of those. Why don't you start off our list of 8 things that will help us lead from a place of authenticity?
Well, I mean, you kind of did it. Like the question you framed to me about my son was this question, right? Which is, are you transparent and honest about challenges that you face?
Yeah.
Right. And so, there's a Harvard Business Study review that found that leaders who demonstrate vulnerability, Chad, with one of the primary methods for that being their willingness to admit mistakes. Okay. Those leaders were perceived by the people they lead as more trustworthy and approachable. And I think, if you're leading a group, one of the worst things you can become is unapproachable.
Oh, gosh.
Right.
Yes.
Like, there's one, I don't even say their person's name. I've in a perfect world, as I close my eyes, and you can see me, Chad, I have my eyes closed, I would not be able to remember their name because they were just a horrible boss, and they were a boss that you felt like you couldn't tell them anything because they were going to be mad, right? It was going to be trouble. It was going to be your fault or something. And the amount of crap just going on in that business because nobody was willing to kind of bring it to the surface because this person was, I don't know, if I'm being honest, they were just mean. But you've got to be approachable, and that generally comes from a place of your people believing that you're honest with the challenges.
Yeah, and I think, Bob, you said it right while we were talking about it. You've got to be honest with the challenges they're going to face. So you're setting them up for success. You're not setting them up and saying, hey, you're going to make this happen. And then in the back of your mind, there's a 1 in 174,000 chance that it happens and stuff. And your kid doesn't make the NBA. You got to be honest and authentic with them. And not only that, you have to share your challenges that you faced along the way, the failures you've had, because again, that does make us more relatable because everybody fails at some point in their life. We all make mistakes. And if you are pretending you don't because you think that's the job of a leader, you're missing point number 1 on one of the best ways to lead.
I remember Ben made a purposeful decision at one point in his social sharing to more share his challenges. Like this, yeah, totally. I'll spit it out here eventually. But he made a decision to share more of the challenges in his life. Like he purposely went out, and this came from his coach. But his coach suggested, like, you should be more vulnerable, and you should showcase these things to people because people will be more able to relate to you because they don't see you as this guy that somehow built this huge thing doing it perfectly every step of the way, right? Like,
Bob, were those the creepy pillow talk videos that he was doing?
There was some pillow talk in there, yeah.
Yeah. Just so I remember. Oh, side note, while we're talking about Ben Kinney and his social media, are you the reasoning behind Ben's new obsession with card collecting?
I'm the culprit.
Damn you, Bob Stewart. All right.
I didn't mean to. I can tell the story, not right now, but I'll tell it at some point.
I actually had somebody reach out to me who asked me if this was Ben because he was using some other handle on some platform.
Ben Rippin.
Yeah, Ben Rippin. They said, is this Ben? And I said, I don't know. And then he posted something recently and they said, aha, I knew it was him. My son is like an addicted follower to Ben Rippon as he was going through this whole thing with the cards.
Hey, if you like baseball cards, Ben Rippon is putting on one of the great baseball card shows of our generation. It's impressive.
All right. So where will I find this if I want to follow him?
Go on Instagram, Ben Rippon.
Okay. And I guess I'll send him all my old baseball cards. Yeah. All right. That's number one. All right. Number two on the list, Bob. This might be the buzzword of the decade that just needs to go away at some point, right? But it's embracing your EQ, right? Embrace your emotional intelligence because, folks, good leadership, if we're going to lead specifically from a place of authenticity, which is the easiest place to lead because you just have to be you, right? Means you recognize and you're understanding your own emotions, the emotions of others, to create stronger, more empathic connections and bonds with those people. Bob Stewart.
I mean, look.
Go ahead.
Well, we did a series on emotional intelligence. We've done multiple episodes on emotional intelligence. We've had guests come on and talk about emotional intelligence. I don't think we need to belabor this one. Go back and listen to the emotional intelligence series. I think that's one of the better series that we've done. It really kind of forces you to look inside yourself and realize, like, am I actually emotionally intelligent? And I'll be honest, Chad, in my best of times, like I see it, right? I experience it a little bit. And in my worst of times, I'm like the complete opposite of what you would call emotionally intelligent. It's not like a linear line that goes up and you learn it and it's this thing that you practice and you get better.
Peaks and valleys. Yes, my EQ, I will sometimes say, is off the chart in the wrong direction on that score. Folks, if you want to check out our emotionally intelligent series, go to winmakegive.com. You'll be able to, from the website, click right on the different series that we've done in the past and check out the emotionally intelligent series that we have. Bob, I did think this was interesting because the World Economic Forum did a research study, and they are claiming that EQ, emotional intelligence, will be one of the top 10 skills needed for success, right? It's going to start showing up on people. They're going to start putting on their resume, if people do resumes anymore or whatever we do instead of resumes, right? I am emotionally intelligent. I guess that's going to be like an I can multitask, which of course tells me, no, I'm not hiring you. Yet we have done enough on EQ, yet it absolutely was high on our list of things. So, Bob, let's keep going on our leadership from a place of authenticity. Number 3 is?
Practice active listening. And I'll be the first to admit, most of my life have not been an active listener.
Right. Even though you ran Active Rain.
Yeah. Even though I ran Active Rain, even though Active Bob is the moniker that I use across the internet. I'll go back to Mr. Bush, my 3rd grade teacher. I blame him, but I just, for most of my life, Chad, waited for you to finish talking so I can say what I was going to say, I'm thinking about what I want to say while you're talking. For most of my 20s, I didn't even know what you said. I was just like, when's he going to take a breath so I can say some shit? Honest, you know what's something that's really helped me? And look, this is really easy for me because a lot of my discussions happen on Zoom, right? But I've also taken this into the real world. You'll be hard pressed to catch me, and this is a Ben Kinney thing. You'll be hard pressed to catch me without a notepad.
Right. Bob's holding up his notepad right now, folks.
Right, it's right here. I'm actually using a pencil. I take notes on everything now, Chad, and I've even do it in person today, right? And I'm a note taker. Yep. And I wasn't for a long time, I think. I just was listening to try to get my piece in.
Bob, I find that even when we're interviewing a guest, I still catch myself doing that, right? They'll say something and I'm like, oh, I have to share this story. And then they're going on. I'm like, well, Chad, if the story comes up at the end, pay attention, right? What are they saying? Folks, active listening is something that you need to train yourself to do.
Yeah.
Right? It's not something that just naturally, oh, I'm going to listen better, because just staring at the person and going, doesn't mean you're really listening and paying attention to what they're saying.
This came to life for me. There's one of the guys that works with us. He kept bringing me things and like in a very helpful manner, Chad. And one time I sat down with him and it was about something else. And he made a comment that I think 99 times out of 100 in a previous version of myself, I would have just not even acknowledged or heard. The comment, I'm trying to think exactly, and it doesn't really matter exactly what he said, but he said something that made me think he wants more recognition. Like he said, yeah, I did that thing, but they never even replied. It was something like that, right? Yeah, I sent it over, but they never even replied. And look, I would have just passed that right by, right? And for whatever reason on that day, as I'm taking my notes, I'm like, never replied. And I'm like, how often does that happen to you? And he's like, quite a bit. And I'm like, man, that stinks. And he started kind of going in to how he felt like his work wasn't that valued when stuff like that would happen. And it made me realize, like, man, as his leader, I got to get him into some roles, some places where his work can be showcased and have a spotlight shown on it. And I think as I've done that for him, he's now become an even more eager contributor. But there was probably many months where he was giving me these signals, and for whatever reason, I just wasn't hearing them. And even when he gave me the signal that I then dug in on, Chad, had I not dug in, right, he would have probably not shared it. And again, this is all, I credit Ben for this. He's made me a more proactive listener. He's made me pick up the pen and put down that desire to just get something out of my mouth.
While you were saying it, I stopped listening because I wanted to do a little research to come along with it. And there was a quote I remembered and I wanted to get it right. And it was Peter Drucker, right? Definitely helped with leadership over all the years and stuff. It says the most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said.
Yeah.
And Bob, if you're not actively listening, you will never hear what isn't said, because you might hear what is said or you're not hearing anything at all.
I mean, this is like the key to a happy marriage, is trying to understand what wasn't said there. Right? My wife came down on the way out of the house and was like, can you just clean up down here, in a really kind of ornery tone to me? Like, most of my life I would have been like, why is she mad at me? But right now I'm like, I wonder what, she's stressed out about something. When she gets home, I'm going to ask her, hey, what are you so stressed out about? Like, what's going on? What, I know, I did the pickup thing, but that wasn't what made you snappy. Like, there's something else, right? It's like, what's
have a glass of wine poured and waiting also, Bob. It might help. All right, number 4, I think it's the ultimate form of leadership, and that's lead by example. I don't think there is any form of leadership that surpasses lead by example. In my case, when people see you doing something, they will follow, right? If it's what leads towards where they want to go. So if you want authentic leadership, you've got to lead by example. You got to model those behaviors and values you expect. Walk the walk, talk the talk, right? All that stuff that comes to it. Ben, again, I'll pick on him, always said, right, that everybody there is janitor to CEO. You always joke you're the dash in between the two. Yet if Ben walked by trash on the ground, he's not walking the walk. He's not leading by example. He's got to stop, pick that up, clean that up, throw that away, and not say, well, I'm saying it so that all of you will go become the janitor as well. We all have to lead by example. If Bob and I are sharing all these lessons and we're not doing it, why would you be listening to Win, Make, Give? Right? Because we're not leading by example in that situation. Folks, you want to make sure you're following someone that's leading by example. In my opinion, while we didn't put this number 1 on the list, it's number 1 in forms of leadership. And if you want to lead authentically, that's how you do it.
We don't have managers in our world, Chad. Nobody has a manager title. Nobody manages things. We have people that do stuff and by extension manage other people that do stuff. Right? But our managers do things, and anybody they're leading can look to them to see the example of how the thing that we're asking them to do can be done in every scenario across the board.
Yeah, I'm going to give a shout out. Here's a quote I'm going to share, and I don't know the original source. I have not Googled. I know Terry Brinkus. I'm giving her credit for saying this because nobody said this to me more than Terry Brinkus. And her comment was always, your actions are so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. Right. And it didn't matter if I said, your actions are so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. Folks, it doesn't matter what you're saying to the people that have chosen to follow you or been told to follow you or are under your responsibility. If you don't do the right actions, they're never going to hear what you're saying because your actions will always be that loud. Terry, thank you for saying that to me so many times when I was at a key leadership development period in my life. Bob, number 5.
Cultivate a growth mindset. To me, it's about like rewarding curiosity. That's how I think Ben's done it in our world. Is he like there's some like in our world, there's like a massive amount of opportunity, and in any given direction you look, there's something that you could probably grab and run with, right? But it's the people that look around and go, I wonder what it would take to run with that. And then they get curious about it, and then they dig into it, and then they bring it to Ben and they go, hey, if we could just carve out a little budget for this thing, I think we could go run with this. Like, I don't know, cultivating a growth mindset. It starts with like giving people permission to fail. And that starts with sharing your own failures up earlier in our discussion, Chad. Right? I think if you don't give your people permission to fail, you'll have a hard time cultivating this growth mindset. I think at our organization, that's why we have it, is because our leader gives us all permission to fail miserably.
Absolutely. Right. For a long time, Bob, our office, the office I used to work at and have the pleasure of leading, was right next door to Zappos, where they originally were before they moved their location. And Tony Hsieh, who was the CEO of Zappos, he was an avid reader. And if you could put any book on his desk and he would read it. Right? That was his thing. He said, if you found a great book, put it on my desk, I'm going to read it. If the book he thought was powerful in it, what would he do is he would go and he would buy 100 copies of the book and just put it in the library at Zappos. And you could borrow it and read it. You could take it. He didn't care. Half the books that were in my library was because we would go over to the Zappos office like every other week and see what new books Tony had put on the shelf. He knew we were coming, and we would take and we would go read. He was cultivating a growth mindset. He was saying to everybody who worked there, and heck, even people who just worked nearby, this book's going to help you grow, read it. This book's going to help you grow, read it. And he was cultivating a growth mindset by always looking to grow himself. And when he found something worthy, sharing it with as many people as he could.
I wonder if that's why at our place, like corporate headquarters, we have a library with multiple copies of all the books that, by the way, Ben sends us books all the time, right? Like I have a shelf up here of a bunch of books that, how I built this, and what else do we got? Arete, that's actually one of our guests. Selling above or below the line, like all these. He sends us this stuff all the time.
Yep, absolutely. That when I moved and lived in Ben's basement, and we had too many books, right? We went and put them in the office for people to read. Ben has obviously grown that. So cultivating a growth mindset, a powerful way to lead. All right, next on our list, Bob. Allowing and encouraging open dialogue and feedback. Right? This is key to create that safe space where team members feel they can give honest feedback. Right? We talked about this almost right at the top, right? If you are transparent, they're going to feel like they can. If you're not, they're going to feel like they can't come to you. This is being a little more specific because you have to allow people to bring feedback because, well, especially when you become the leader, you might not have your hand on the product. Maybe there's some leaders listening to this that aren't meeting with the customer as much. And the people they're leading are or aren't dealing with the product, and the people are. And if you're not listening to them saying, hey, things have changed. Hey, things are different. We need change. You're not allowing that open feedback. You've got to demand it, but create that safe space so people are willing to give it without repercussion.
So we used to, I'm just remembering that we did this. I haven't thought about this in how long? 20 years. When we, in the early days of Active Brand, it wouldn't even been the early days because we probably had 30 employees by then. At the heyday, kind of at the peak of Active Brand, our co-founder did something I thought was really smart. It's kind of in this vein. Once a quarter, so throughout the quarter, we would collect feedback from our employees. Right. And the feedback, we asked them to give feedback that they thought if the company got behind this thing and changed it, that it would be, a better outcome for our company and for our customers. And so we would collect feedback throughout the quarter. And I remember the very first quarter we did it, I think we had like 6 pieces of feedback. And Jonathan originally put this out there as a way to have our employees tell us, right? Like, we think we should work on these things. But it was a very little, it might not have even been 6. It was a very kind of petty amount of feedback, right? And so we were disappointed by it. And so he was like, I know, like every day they're telling me these ideas, but then we give them this formal setting to do it and there's no feedback, right? So maybe it was 4. I think there was 4 things of feedback. So we just took all 4 of them, right? And we decided we were going to bring the entire company in. We're going to let them vote on the 4 and kind of which one they thought was the most important. And then we were going to go do that thing. And so we did it. Like whatever I don't even remember what they voted for, right? And we went and did that thing. It might have been something, I think it was something silly, like, I wish there was food here at the office and it'd be cool if there was snacks or something, right? And it was like, that was the thing that won. And so now we've got snacks in the office. But the crazy thing was the next quarter we did it, there was like 85 pieces of feedback. And then, right. And so, but we created this kind of this ebb and flow where each quarter they give us feedback, and then in the next quarter we would vote on it. We'd pick out 3 or 4, right? We'd let the team vote, and then next quarter we would go implement that thing that they voted for. So they really felt like they had a hand in or an ability to kind of shape things the company was doing.
And that's a fantastic way to encourage it. Actually show them that you're listening and engaging in what that thing was. They want to see this change. Okay, then give it to them, because again, they're the ones dealing with the customer. They might have said, oh, it would be easier if our customers could give us feedback this way or respond to us or communicate with us in this way. Okay, great. Go do those things, because folks, that's just going to create that loop. Like Bob said, now they're going to be more and more and more encouraging. Don't beat them down on everything. It doesn't mean every piece of feedback you have to immediately agree with and engage on. It just means creating that conversation where they feel safe, having the dialogue, giving you feedback. Ken Blanchard always said, feedback is the breakfast of champions.
All right, number 7.
I can see a box, with like Jonathan on one or Ben on one or something, instead of our athlete celebrities on the Wheatie boxes. All right, number 7, Bob.
Prioritize long-term impact over short-term results. And this is really, really hard, by the way.
Of course.
And look, what I would say in this, and as I look to just kind of my closest example of a great leader is, and maybe I'd even tweak this a little bit, make sure everybody you're leading, let them in on the thought patterns that go in to these decisions that you're having to make that impact both short and long term.
Yep.
Right. Because so like we recently, at some point in the last 2 years, had to do some layoffs. Right. Like the market that we live in is massively restricted, and in order to make sure that we come out on the other side and things are really amazing, we had to downsize a little bit. And I think the thing that really kind of made Ben an authentic leader during this time, somebody that you could look at and go, man, I'm rallying behind that, right? Was his willingness to share his thought process that he went through to get to these really hard decisions.
Yeah.
Like literally down to the numbers and showing us the math of the business and what a 10% reduction in our expenses would mean for the runway. Like all this stuff that he, had spent months poring over and owed us no explanation at all, really, right? He's the guy having to make these hard decisions, but letting us in on the explanation got everybody rallied around him as this authentic leader that's like a real human. And a lot of times you look at somebody who's had to make layoffs and you're like, man, what a callous guy. Like, how could they do that, right? But you realize there's a human behind it making these decisions that were well thought out. And I'm sure there's some short-term pain for this long-term gain, but as somebody being led in that environment, I'm bought in because I feel like that leader's like coming from a place of authenticity.
Yeah, if we can remember, the world's looking for instant gratification, right? Everybody, I don't care who, everybody is looking for instant gratification. The special few are the ones who can defer it for the long-term results. Imagine, and to our audience, sometimes I like to take these things out of business sometimes, and we've been talking a lot business, but your kids want to go to Disney World. And now here in March, they want to do this. And in April, they want to do that. Sometimes you have to be able to prioritize the long-term plan of that. What will that Disney trip look like for all of us, the family, the memories, the moments? And we have to not do some of these short-term things like, oh, I want to go to the water park. I want to go here. I want to go there. We have to think about how you can apply these things in your world, not just in your business world, because you're a leader in so many places, folks. And sometimes we have to prioritize long-term impact over short-term results. And Bob's adding that wonderful position of don't just do it, then be authentic about the vision, the reasons, the motivation for making the decisions you are. Let your people come along that journey. They'll just support you that much more. All right, Bob, we said we had the 8 things that we wanted to cover to help lead from a place of authenticity. It's the recap moment, right? It's my favorite moment, the recap. 1, be transparent and honest about challenges. 2, embrace emotional intelligence. 3, practice active listening. You're still listening, right? I see you're not looking anymore. 4, lead by example. 5, cultivate a growth mindset. 6, encourage open dialogue and feedback. 7, prioritize long-term impact over short-term results. Bob, number 8 is?
Foster a culture of inclusivity. Bring more people into the tent, Chad. Bring in people with different viewpoints, different backgrounds. One that I think gets missed in here, like we look, I mean, this is like what's happening in the world, right? And all the DEI and all the stuff. And one thing I think, like we tend to think of like, we bring in people that aren't like us or don't look like us or to include inclusivity. I would also say, by the way, bring in people with different levels of experience. Like one of the things that I think has been interesting to kind of watch around our organization is people that are stepping in that don't have 20 years of real estate experience like Ben does, like I do, like a lot of our leadership group does, and they have like fresh glasses on this whole thing, right? We're 20 years in, we're a little bit jaded, we've got some preconceived notions. And so when you bring people into the decision-making process and you ask for their advice, even though they don't have the same experience as you, they might have a different angle and they're going to appreciate you as an authentic leader. Because Chad, if I was out and, like I think about my kids and I'm training my kid to be a big basketball player, that doesn't mean I'm not going to talk to the dad whose kid is a really awesome soccer player and try to ask him how his kid got so dang shifty on the soccer field, right? Like he doesn't have basketball expertise, but he's got speed and explosion expertise because I can see his kid doing it. Just bring more people into the tent as a leader. And, it's a good way to showcase that you're willing to hear from, different types of viewpoints.
Yeah, that's a great one. There's a research study by McKinsey that showed that organizations with diverse leadership teams are 33% more likely to have above average profitability.
I like that. I want to be profitable, Chad. That's why we do this, right?
And you mentioned it, Bob. I got a gift in the mail today from an author we're going to talk to, or maybe we've already talked to. I don't know, in the world of Dave and our podcast. And the book was How to Lead People Who Are Not Like You, right? So you just said that exact statement. And this book is sitting here on my shelf waiting for the interview with this person where, Bob, I will rub in the fact that they sent me a book.
Just gonna say, that's another book that I don't have on my bookshelf.
Well, that's okay. You got some books from Ben that I don't have on my bookshelf. Look, folks, when it comes to leadership, there are so many ways to do it. Yet the ultimate thing is come from a place of authenticity. Because the more authentic you can be, another one of those buzzwords I think is going to get like overused, of course. Yet the more authentic you can be, it's not just the more people will trust and engage with you, Bob, it just makes your life so much easier. Because when I'm authentic, I don't have to attempt to be somebody I'm not. I'm being me, which means it's going to always be easier to always be me. Folks, keep being you.
Yeah.
Share this episode with someone, because we know there's somebody who you are leading or you are following that might need to hear the message in here on authentic leadership. And we love when you share our episode, whether that's on social media or just send it directly to them. Your choice. Until our next episode, as always, do good.